Hello, Wolfpack. The Bitcoin chart really couldn't get much more confusing, even if it tried here. And what we have really is a breakdown from the bear flag, breakdown from the ascending wedge, but at the same time, and this is brand new information here, I haven't talked about this before, at the same time as we've seen all of this happening, and we've seen large amount of volume in the breakdown of a downside, we've seen a fake out MACD cross, we've seen rejections from major resistance zones that I'm bringing up right now. At the same time as all of this bad news, Bitcoin has also managed to form a descending wedge formation, just out of nowhere, really. I mean, very strange price action, very messy daily chart. And so we're kind of left with the question now. It's like, what are we going to do next now? Now that we have this breakdown, which was an obvious breakdown, it's a clear breakdown of a massive 3-month-long ascending channel formation, or a bear flag formation, as some people would call it. People were expecting, or I was certainly expecting, a drop downwards. Now, I did say previously in my previous video, or my previous couple videos, and you would have seen that, Bitcoin's going to be seeing a dead cat bounce, or a little dead cat bounce from this region here at 37k. And I said, if you looked at the title of one of my videos in the last few days, 40.5k is going to be the target for that. We reached 40.3k. I also said 42k might be a potential target. However, we have reached 40.3k now, and so look, we'll have to see what happens there. At the end of the day, it really depends on what happens with this descending wedge formation, but the shorter term target is technically reached. And so now Bitcoin kind of faces a bit of a decision point. And as I said, it's like, well, what is going to happen here? And it's very hard to understand. We do have a bullish divergence on the RSI, on the daily. We do have a bullish MACD cross certainly primed, and we're in kind of a bullish structure, but we're also in a bullish structure after a breakdown of a bearish structure. So it's what is the real structure here? It's very, very difficult to understand. And for that reason, I think the best thing to do is just leave it alone, right? And what we can do before we do that is actually take a measured move from this wedge formation and understand that even if this wedge does break out to the upside, okay, even if it does break out to the upside, say it breaks out on, I don't know, May the 7th, right? We're not even going to be reaching our critical region. Our critical region for Bitcoin is the 200-day SMA. That's at 47k. Even if this breaks out to the upside, even if it does it today, we'll only just touch the critical region, and then as per the measured move, we'll probably reject off of it. So, I think it's one of those situations where, yes, it's there to confuse people, but I also think it's just a bull trap structure. And if it does break to the upside, it's going to lead to rejection, right? And that's what the TA is telling us as per the measured move. Now, the measured move itself is even telling us we're going to reject off of 200. But just based off logic and common sense and the long-term scenario as well in the macro situation, it does seem to be a bit of a bull trap structure. And I really wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin just completely disrespects it and just does something like this, right? I wouldn't be surprised with that at all. As you guys would know, I'm a big believer in the fact that Bitcoin will most likely be seeing a drop in May, right? A considerable drop in May. And as I've been saying for months and months here, and I'm not stepping back from that claim, I think that Bitcoin, by the end of May or in early June, so like before, I don't know, the 10th of June, that's what you consider early June, it depends what you consider early June, Bitcoin will be at 30k or very close to it. Okay, so I am a believer in that, and there's lots of evidence to support that, and we'll look at that evidence in a second here, but as of right now, I just want to be very clear. The Bitcoin chart on the daily chart is very confusing, right? Breakdown from a bear flag, immediately form a bullish structure into resistance. What the heck is going on, right? Very, very hard to be certain of, especially considering the fact that we also broke down, we came back up, and we saw a resistance support flip as well. Within the bullish structure, we saw a bearish move. So let's just move past it because it's very confusing. I'd say it's still leaning bearish. I'd say it's just a bit of a bull trap formation. So let's see what happens. But moving on. We're going to talk about the 4-year cycle after. What I want to talk about first is the May correction that I just talked about that I think we'll be seeing. Now, this is the BLX, so it's a little bit delayed in price action. Don't worry about the price on this chart. However, the main point of this chart, the main reason I'm bringing it up is because it is one of the pieces of evidence we're seeing for a May correction. You'll notice that every time the red line crosses under the blue line, which is the 50-week crossing under the 75-week, Bitcoin is in the midst of a major 50% correction, right? This has happened in history in 2015, and it's happened here in 2018, right? 2 separate occasions that's happened in the midst of a major correction, and it's also going to be crossing in about 1 to 2 weeks, right? Maybe 3 weeks, okay? The point is that is a trigger, or that is an indicator that Bitcoin will be entering that major correction very soon, which lines up with the fact on the daily chart that even this bullish descending wedge formation will be coming to an apex within about 3 weeks as well. So there need to be a major decision on Bitcoin within 3 weeks. And as per this chart that we just looked at, there will also need to be a major decision on Bitcoin within 3 weeks. Now, looking at something else, on the weekly chart here, we have a bullish MACD cross that was flattened out just like 2018. Only a few months after that was flattened out in 2018, we saw a massive correction. We've already flattened this out for about a month, okay? And we also saw recently a major rejection from the 50-week SMA, right? Just like we saw in 2018. Again, in 2018, only a few months, maybe 2.5 months after that happened, we saw a major correction. We saw that happen about a month ago. And so there is evidence to believe that will be triggering a major correction in late May/early June, which heads up with our prediction as well. So this chart here is suggesting a correction in about 2 to 3 weeks. This chart here is suggesting a correction in about a month. And then moving on to this chart, which is the most compelling chart in my opinion, because those are kind of a bit hit or miss. The most compelling chart in my opinion is this chart here, right? This is the 3-day chart on Bitcoin. It's using the 50 and the 200, the 50 in red, the 200 in green. What we can see is that over the course of history in 2014 here, when the 50 crosses underneath the 200, we see a death cross on the 3-day chart. We see immediately a 50% correction in about a month and a half. We saw it in 2014 and 2015. We saw it in 2018. And guess what? This death cross will be occurring in about, well, let's see. Let's try and get a bit of an example of when this will be happening here. 1 second. According to the current price action, this will be happening on my prediction at about May 10th, which is about, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks. So let's just go over this one more time. Okay, so this chart here is predicting a major correction in about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. This chart here is predicting a major correction in about a week. This chart here is predicting a major correction in about 2 weeks. Okay, so all of the evidence we're looking at right now is pointing at a major correction in May. Now, on top of this, what else is happening in May? Interest rates are going to be rising in May. In a time when government regulation constantly threatens crypto investors, being able to access an exchange without KYC being mandatory is absolutely exceptional. This is great for me personally as an Australian because a lot of other exchanges out there like Binance don't allow me to access options due to Australian regulation. BitGet additionally is also host to trading fees even lower than the vast majority of the major exchanges at just 0.2% per trade. Sign up to BitGet using my referral link in the pinned comment below or the description box and you will receive up to $153 USD deposited into your account as a reward. This is the bond yields for the 1-year government bond. Okay, so essentially bonds are paying a 2% yield. The 1-year government bond is paying a 2% yield in the USA right now. As you can see, bond yields have spiked up about 20x in the last few months. The bond yields basically always correctly predict where interest rates are going. If these things go up, interest rates go up because it's a representation of how risky the financial markets are right now, right? When the financial markets, economic markets, and the economy in general are in a state of high risk, government will pay higher yields on bonds to compensate for that risk, right? Because if there's a higher risk, there's got to be a higher reward. So they're giving out a higher reward to compensate for the higher risk of buying the bond yields, buying the bonds in general, right? So essentially, this bond yields here on the 1-year government bond yields has reached levels at 2.1% that we have not seen since June 2019 and March 2018. All we need to do is get an understanding of where interest rates were in those periods. Okay, so in March 2018, interest rates were sitting at about 1.75%, and in June 2019, interest rates were sitting at about 2.25%. And so what we can do from that is understand that interest rates are critically undervalued right now. They're at 0.5%, and they should actually be, according to the bond yields, at 1.75% to 2.25%. So interest rates are undervalued by a measure of 1.25% to around 1.75%. Okay, so essentially what's that saying? It's saying that there's going to be massive interest rate hikes within the next few months, and bond yields don't show any signs of slowing down too, right? They're skyrocketing. They're very much skyrocketing. So interest rates will no doubt go higher than 2.25%. However, that's the immediate short-term prediction. The market is predicting a massive interest rate hike. Jerome Powell's come out and said a 50 basis point hike is very likely, and a 50 basis point hike hasn't been seen in about 20 years. So it's a pretty big move, right? It's a pretty big situation we've got ourselves into here, or the Fed's gotten us into here. And so if we see that 50 basis point hike, that will be a little bit of a shock to the market. Now, you could say it's being priced in, and that's fair enough. It is being priced in. I mean, the S&P 500, if we go ahead and take a look at that right now, has been dropping massively over the last few days. And why is that? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's because the interest rates decision is coming up. It's on the 5th of May, which is Thursday this week in Australia. Could be different for you in the USA. What did we see last month before, or in, what was it? April? March? I don't know. March, before the interest rate hike, we saw a massive drop down on Bitcoin. As soon as it happened, we saw a pump upwards. I wouldn't expect anything different. I would expect us to continue dropping downwards. When it happens, we'll see a little bit of a relief rally, possibly all the way up to here. And then eventually this wedge is going to break to the downside, obviously, as the recession really kicks off. But, the general kind of situation is that, as you can see on the S&P 500, when those interest rate fears started emerging in the market, when the Fed first came out and said, all right, we actually need to start, targeting this inflation started getting really out of hand. That's exactly when the S&P 500 started dumping. Why? Because institutions are trying to get out of the market as fast as they can so they can preserve their capital and have money to spend during the recession, rather than keeping their money wrapped up in stocks, wrapped up in all these companies that are all going to go down when there's interest rate hikes, right? We saw the same thing in the dot-com bubble, for example, and the global financial crisis, right? We saw the same kind of sell-offs, the same kind of corrections, a little bit before retail got a hang of what was going on, right? That's what happened in January here, okay? Why do you think it started happening in January? Because retail wasn't really aware of it yet in January, and this kind of had a reaction on Bitcoin. Bitcoin topped out on the 8th of November, I'm pretty sure. And this is when the S&P 500 started really slowing down. It's when the S&P 500 started showing bearish divergence, started showing actual bearish TA, right? The bearish TA is an excuse by the institutions to sell without people knowing, essentially. And so, right now, we're in a state of the market where, we're seeing on Bitcoin a strong correlation to the S&P 500. And people are saying, and the same people who are saying Bitcoin's going to go to 100K are the same people who are saying we're going to see a recession. And it's like, how does that work? Because as of right now, Bitcoin is following the S&P 500 downwards. It's following the traditional markets. As the traditional markets go down, as the DXY goes up, Bitcoin is going down. So as you say, if you're saying Bitcoin's going to see a bull market this year, but then you're also saying it's going to, and the financial market's going to be seeing a recession, it's like, it doesn't make sense, because as of right now, Bitcoin is following those traditional markets. So do you understand what I mean? If Bitcoin's following the traditional markets and the traditional markets are pulling Bitcoin down, and you're saying Bitcoin's going to go up, that's not consistent. You're not being consistent with your logic. If you think we're going to see a recession, which you should think that, because everyone thinks that, even the Federal Reserve, okay, and that's a big admittment. If you think we're going to see a recession, you should think Bitcoin is going to continue with the trend and go downwards. Can it break away? Of course it can. Will it? It's unlikely. That's how I see it. And so, there's your evidence, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, and then interest rates is the fourth major reason as to why we will be seeing, or why we may be seeing a major correction starting in May, going into early June, right? And then I want to head to the 4-year cycle and say that, well, even though I've just made that whole argument and I've just said that whole point, and people have heard it over and over again from my channel, it's not new information. Even though I've just said all of that, it doesn't really matter, doesn't it? Because we know when we're going to be seeing a bottom on Bitcoin. According to the 4-year cycle theory, we will be seeing a bottom on Bitcoin in November to December at around 24K. 24K isn't what's important. The 200-week SMA is important, this green line here. So it doesn't matter if it's actually 24K or not. What matters if it's at the 200-week SMA on the weekly chart, right? If Bitcoin does not close a weekly candle below the 200-week SMA, that is a macro bottom, right? So when we reach that 200-week SMA, that is most likely going to be the macro bottom. 24K is just an estimation that could change. Who cares about 24K? It's 200-week SMA that we're actually focused on. I'm just predicting it will be at 24K in November to December. Now, in reality, it could be a lot higher, could be a lot lower, could be 26K, could be 22K. Maybe not 22K, definitely could be 26K though. And it just depends on where the price action leads up to until then. But, I'm just making these predictions for a bit of fun. I think May to June will be an interesting period for Bitcoin. I think that is the most likely period in which we drop down. However, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to change my overall prediction unless we break above 47K. Now, I have made a few adjustments to the 4-year cycle chart here, and namely, the big adjustment I have made is changing when I think Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high. Now, you guys will remember I made an observation. I'm not calling a prediction. I never called it a prediction, by the way. It's an observation because it's not based on enough evidence to call it a prediction. that Bitcoin will be reaching a new all-time high in August to September 2023. I've changed that as of recently. That was based on preliminary data from a 200-week SMA, measuring it from, it's very hard to explain. I talked about it in a 4-year cycle video. You can go ahead and check it out if you want to. But point is, it's irrelevant now. Now how I'm measuring it is basically how long the all-time high resistance held in 2013 through to 2017, and also in 2018 through to 2020, and just applying that to how long it might hold from the bull market high on November 8th all the way through to November 24 to February 25, right? So essentially, the prediction has changed there. I think now, giving it an observation, I really don't think it's based on enough evidence to say it's a prediction. But as an observation here, I would say it is the most likely scenario that Bitcoin sees a new all-time high in November 2024 to February 2025. Okay? Don't really add too much weight to that. Doesn't really matter. We'll look into that. That's 2 years away, 3 years away. Who cares? Let's look at that when we get there, when it's a bit closer. As of right now, it's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, I just thought I'd let you know because that has obviously changed. So I'm not a believer at all in the fact that Bitcoin will be reaching an all-time high in August to September 2023. I think that's way too early. I think the evidence that was based on was very preliminary, and I don't think it was worth really any weight at all. But yeah, that's the new kind of observation there. But that's an observation. My prediction is that Bitcoin will bottom out in November to December, most likely, maybe a little bit before, at around the 200-week SMA, probably 24K, wherever that may be at the time, probably 24K. Moving on now to the YouTube comment questions, answering the Wolfpack questions here. And first of all, we have a question from Kem. Now, Kem says, appreciate your advice on TA. Thanks, mate. Do you buy Ethereum during the bear market? Thinking of buying some when Bitcoin dips below 25K. Now, I did buy Ethereum during the bear market, last bear market. However, this bear market, I'm not exactly sure what I will be doing. As I talked about in yesterday's video, I'm not going to be buying altcoins at all, including Ethereum, until the halving, right? There's many reasons for that. I explained it all in the last video. Essentially, the reason why is because historically, altcoins don't do anything from the Bitcoin bear market bottom to the halving anyway. They go up like 2x. And in that period of time, that 1.5 to 2 years, you can make way more than 2x trading if you had your money in cash. And so it's kind of irrelevant for me to buy altcoins in that period. I buy them during the halving because if you buy them during the halving, you only have to wait a few months for the bull market to kick off again. So if I bought Ethereum, it would be during the halving, which would be 2024, because that's only a few months before the bull market. And I would need to be seeing whether Ethereum still held dominance in the market. Now, if Ethereum was still the second cryptocurrency in the crypto market in 2024 during the halving, that's a pretty easy bet you got there. Because when we see the bull market, if it's second in the market still, it's still holding its place, that's a pretty much guaranteed 5x for that bull market. So yeah, I think it's a good coin to buy. Now, some would say it's a little bit too low risk, a low reward, right? Because it's very high up. I already hold Bitcoin, so do I need to hold Ethereum? Not really. I'd rather take risks with a lot of other altcoins during a bull market phase like that. But, maybe I'd consider it. I wouldn't be opposed to it. And then V said, so should I just sell now and cut my losses? Now, this is a big question I get. Basically, people asking me, well, I've held through November. I've held all the way down to now. I'm down this much percent. I'm down 60%, 70%, 40%, whatever it may be. Should I just sell now and cut my losses? Now, I need to clearly instill this. I literally cannot tell you what to do there. I don't want to because I'm not in your position. Now, I was advocating selling, and that's not to say I don't advocate for selling. I was advocating selling in November at 66K to 63K. Now that we're at 39K or 38K, where we are currently, where was I first advocating selling? 66K. So we are currently down 42% from when I first started saying sell. So for me to tell you to sell right now, there's a massive amount of risk I'm putting on my reputation by saying that, because we're not in a position in which I would be selling anymore, right? I've already sold everything. I don't need to worry about whether I'd be selling right now. All I can say is that I'm giving you analysis. I'm giving you my opinion on the market. My opinion on the market is that we're going to go down further. So you can do what you want with that information. If it was me, if I was personally in your shoes, in your situation, I would be waiting for a clear breakdown below 37K before I sold anything. However, I'm not in your situation, and I think that's a pretty terrible situation to be in, so I can't help you too much there. You can understand my situation. It's like, well, if I tell people to sell right here at 37K, it immediately puts me in a worse position because that's not a good risk reward ratio, right? The good risk reward ratio is selling at 66k, which is where I started telling people to sell. But anyway, a lot of people ask me, should I sell right now? All of this, I think it's really up to you. I guess you got to ask yourself the question. It's like, can you deal with Bitcoin going down to 24k? That's another 60% drop in altcoins minimum. Maybe more. Can you deal with that? And are you sure that your altcoins will return to those prices? Because I can tell you right now, 90% of altcoins will not be seeing their all-time highs ever again in the future. That's a fact, right? That's a fact. Especially outside of the top 100. 90%, 95%, I'd even say, will not be seeing all-time highs they saw in the 2021 bull market in the future. Ask yourself those questions. Now, if you're holding Bitcoin, you're holding Ethereum, if you wanted to, you could realistically hold it out and just sit there and just stake down for the long run. That you'd probably have a pretty good chance of breaking even again in the future. But you might be waiting a few years or a couple of years. So it's really up to you about what you want to do, what you're holding. It depends on many, many situations. Now, if you're holding SafeMoon, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Get out, bro. Sell. But yeah, essentially, that's my opinion on that. I can't really tell you exactly what to do there. I'm just giving you my opinion on the market, which I think it's going to go down. Now, I've added a new section on top of the comment section thread to my videos, and that is Twitter, right? So every video now I'm going to be looking at Twitter briefly. And I'm just doing this stuff, the comment section thread, answering the Wolfpack questions and all of that. It's just to mix up the videos a little bit because I understand the videos get a little bit repetitive for everyday viewers because I do talk about a lot of the same stuff. That's just what it is. I have to. Bitcoin is the major coin in the market right now. If altcoins are useless, altcoins don't do anything right now. They're just going down. I talk about altcoins in WOC Exclusive in my Telegram group. Go ahead and check that out. Links in the comment. That's my altcoin analysis kind of thing there. I do that every day, release trading signals on altcoins. YouTube's just for Bitcoin and broader market. And so I want to try and mix it up, and we're going to be looking at Twitter now as well to mix it up. So this is every day you get new comments to look at, new Twitter to look at, and some new Bitcoin analysis, hopefully. But what you'll notice here is we've got Kevin, whatever his name is, I can't say his last name, Kevin S, I'll call him, is starting to point out things on Ethereum like the 2018 to 2022 similarities. Now, this is Ethereum in 2018. We had a major uptrending line. This is the logarithmic chart, I'm assuming. And essentially, we broke that line to the downside. Then we saw a bear market. And we also are seeing that very same line right now. And we're seeing the very same fractal that will suggest Ethereum will break down into a bear market territory very shortly. And he's pointed this out and he said, well, that's interesting. And this is interesting, right? Because this is a person who's been kind of notoriously, in my opinion, very bullish throughout the entire Bitcoin correction, all the way from 60 to 69k. He's been saying buy every day. I guess you could say, he's been saying buy at the top on many, many occasions. And now these people are starting to flip bearish, and he says he's not bearish. He says he's still bullish, but he's posting these bearish charts. And I just kind of want to enforce this in you guys. It's like these people don't really care about you. They're going to flip flop as much as they can. One of the things about my channel is, I may be wrong, I may be right, but at least I've been consistent. I've been saying I'm bearish since 66k. I've been saying it's a bear market since 58k. And even if we go up, no one can change that. And even if we go up to 47k, guess what? We still missed out on a 20k drop, right? These people you cannot trust, and these people are harvesting you for your engagement for sure, right? Now that it's popular to get bearish, now that it's popular to be bearish, they're bearish, right? They follow the trend. Wherever it goes, they follow it. We've got another example here. Lark Davis, one of the most hated names in the space purely from his dishonesty, right? And people love him. Look how many followers he has. 965,000. Absolutely terrible an analyst, right? And now he's finally talking about this thing I've been talking about since January, right? He's talking about the 3-day chart. Now, that's this chart here that I bring up, right? With the def cross in the 3-day chart, he's finally bringing it up, right? After months and months and months of it being present, being active in the market, being so obvious to see, by the way, he's finally bringing it up. And he's saying, Bitcoin is 2 weeks away from a def cross in the 3-day chart. He said this has resulted in a 50% drop on 2 separate occasions. He's finally bringing it up. He's only just now warning his near 1 million followers of this chart, only 2 weeks before it occurs. That's a little bit late, right? It's kind of just pointing out here that these people should not be trusted, right? Because then they don't have your best interest at heart. They have the best interest of their marketing platform for their channels at heart, right? They're there for the follow account and for the engagement, not for the actual advice. can I be honest? I don't really give a shit about my follower count. I don't really give a shit about how many subscribers I have. It doesn't really matter to me because I do this analysis anyway. Every day I sit here at the chart and I do everything that I show you guys anyway. It's all, it's something that I do every day. It just makes it a bit more substantial when I put it into video content because it gives you something to do, right? These people, they don't do it for that. This is probably the first chart he's looked at in 3 days. Do you think this guy's sitting at his computer doing analytical work? No. He's sitting there making tweets. Half these posts aren't even charts. These people don't genuinely care about their followers. They don't genuinely care about the market. They just got into Bitcoin early. They got into crypto early. They made a bunch of money and now they're rich. And they're just sitting there with their money. They don't know how to trade. They don't know how to do anything, right? How is this technical analysis? He's just bringing up 2 lines on a chart and just running with it. But yeah, I'm going to try to do something with Twitter. I'm going to try to do something with Twitter every video. I'm not just going to trash on people too. I'm going to bring up actual charts that actually kind of try and debate my viewpoint. I'm going to talk about them, analyze them. I just thought I'd bring up these 2 charts here because I thought it was hilarious. It's good entertainment, just looking at people just being absolute fools. But yeah, essentially, if you've got any Twitter posts, any Twitter threads you want me to respond to in the video as well, go ahead and drop those in the comments and I'll check them out and I might look into them in the next videos. I'll give you my responses, bring up the chart, I'll cross-analyze and stuff like that. But I thought this is a good way to start off the Twitter segment, just some negativity, a bit more negative energy to the day. I mean, the whole video is bearish anyway, so I may as well add more negativity to it. But essentially, that's what it is, guys. Thanks for watching the video. My throat's still not 100% better from COVID, as you guys can probably hear, but it's getting there. And I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. Thanks. Actually, before we go, sorry about that. Before we go, let's talk about the Crypto Academy. I've made a 10 unit with Mega Rail Crypto, a 10 unit Become a Trader course. If you want to learn TA, you can go to the website in the pinned comment below. We teach everything from market patterns to indicators to candlestick formations, market psychology. Everything you need to know about trading is in this course. Go ahead and chuck us an email here at the cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, right? cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com. And we'll give you the course information, the payment details. So go ahead and check that out as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed again. And I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.